Well, good morning. This is Dawn Slyke representing Christian Neck Scarves. It is Wednesday, Ash Wednesday, 2024, and it is also St. Valentine's Day. So, I'm very contemplative this morning. I wanted to try to do another brief tutorial showing you something I've been working on using these two yarns. This is spooled acrylic white yarn. Let's see what it is. Fentex sport white yarn. It's really thin for a sport yarn. It's vintage. And then this is Lion Brand Ice Cream Sprinkles, and this is actually called Vanilla Bean. It's a cute name for a white yarn with gray flecks of gray in it. And I mixed these two yarns together to make a very pretty scarf. Started it some weeks ago. I work on multiple projects, so I don't become tired or bored. But I love how this is coming out. Kind of makes me think of a snow leopard. I'm going to put these yarns down, back on the floor, and show you what I'm making here. This is an adult scarf for a lovely lady using the 30 stitch pattern. And what that translates to is you still have your edging with your loop, your single column of seed stitches, your 6-stitch braided cable, your crosses in the center, and then the reverse on the other side. But instead of a single column of seed stitches surrounding the panel of crosses, I've added 4 stitches to the pattern, so it's 30 stitches, in order to give us a 3-seed panel on each side of the panel of crosses. To give it a little more width, this is a 30 stitch pattern. So what I've done is increased the single column of seeds from the 26 stitch to the 30 stitch. These are now 3 seed stitches on each side of the panel of crosses, just to make this a little bit wider. And that presents the challenge of counting. But if you're looking at your pattern, even with this little bit of color variation, with the blacks and the grays showing up in the white, it shouldn't be hard to figure out where your seed stitches are and purl, knit, purl accordingly. So I always try to go with odd number seed stitches when I'm doing a panel of seed stitches, a column of seed stitches, so that I start with purl and end with purl. On an odd number column, you start with purl and end with purl, whether you're doing 1 or 3 or 5 or even 7. If you go with odd numbers of seed stitches, you can do the same thing on the back side. You're always starting with purl and ending with purl. Then you don't have to keep track of your stitches as much. I have made scarves that have even number. It's a little more challenging, but it's okay. I remember to do it differently on the back. But in this case, what we're doing is starting with our loop stitch, which is knitted. Then you have a single column of seed stitches. Then you have your 6 stitches of braided cables. And then you have 3 stitches of seed, which is purl, knit, purl. We have done this before. And then we begin our panel of crosses, which is, I've already started this cross. So we're knitting 3, purling 2, knitting 3 to get that panel done. And then over here, it's in the reverse of the other side. You have your 3 seed stitches, which will be purl, knit, purl, and then 6 stitches of your braided cable, and then a purl stitch seed right before the last stitch, which is a loop. So I'm going to finish this row. This is, let's see where I am. I started it with 6 rows of double ribbing, and then I knitted 10 rows of stockinette, which is knit on the front, purl on the back, before beginning my first cross. These are 12-row crosses. I really love how this looks. This is fluffy, soft, very feminine, very different. It's soft and puffy, not overly fluffy. I am using a size 10.5 needle for this double strand because they're both thin strands. It's working out very nicely. So let's see, I'm on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm on the 6th cross. After this 6th cross, we'll be reversing direction. Instead of 10 stockinette rows after the 6th cross, we will have 16 stockinette rows, and then begin the 7th cross. So that when we change direction of the crosses and go in reverse, the cross beams will be equidistant going the other direction as well. The 7th cross will be the same cross. The 7th cross's cross beam will be the same distance from the 6th cross's cross beam as all the other cross beams. I like making these cross beams equidistant, and by adding 6 rows of stockinette rows after the 6th cross and then changing direction on the 7th cross, I will keep the cross beam the same direction, the same distance from the 6th cross's cross beam as all the rest of them. So it'll be evenly distributed and look very nice and even and consistent. So I'm going to get started finishing this row. Was in the middle of a row. And we're just going to knit away here. So I'm going to finish the cross panel. 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're going to purl, knit, purl for these 3 seed stitches. Then we're going to do the part 1 of the braided cable by picking up those first 2 stitches with the cabling needle, dropping them in the front, knitting the next 2 stitches, coming back to the cabling needle, knitting those 2 stitches, knitting stitches 5 and 6, purling the seed stitch, which is solitary, and then leaving the yarn in the front, slipping that last stitch onto the needle. Now, where am I? I am going into the 4th row. The back side is always an even number row. We're going into the 4th row of the cross. So on the back, this is a 30 stitch pattern, so we do have to watch where our seed stitches go and watch where the cross is. We're knitting that first loop, purling the next stitch because that's a single column of seeds. Then we're going to purl the next 6. That's the back side of the braided cable. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This goes a little slower because we're double stranding, and we want the tension to be even on both strands. happy for me that these are both very soft yarns. This is not just soft to look at, but it's soft to touch. I absolutely love how this scarf is working out. So we just purled 6 stitches behind the back side of the braided cable. Now we're going to purl, knit, purl the next 3 stitches, which is the seed panel of 3 seeds. We purl, knit, purl on the front, we purl, knit, purl on the back. That way you produce a seed pattern on both sides. Now we're going to start into the back of the cross panel. So we're purling 3. See, this is the reverse of what's on the front. So instead of knit 3, we're purling 3, and the back side of the cross is knits, not purls. So we're going to knit the next 2 stitches, purl the next 3, purl, knit, purl the next 3 seed stitches, purl 6 for the back side of the second braided cable, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, purl the solitary seed stitch, let's purl on both sides, and then the last stitch, of course, is slipping with the yarn in the front. Now that was row 4 of a 12-row cross. So we continue this pattern 4 more rows the same way until we get to the cross beam, and then we make the cross beam, which is 6 stitches of purl on the front. And then we top it off with the last 2 rows to bring it to 12 rows to make the cross. And then that will complete my 12-row cross, and that'll be the 6th cross. And that is where we change direction. We will knit from that point, we will knit 16 rows of stockinette, which is knitting on the front and purling on the back. And then we will knit the top of the 7th cross with 2 rows of purl on the front. And then the 3rd row of that 7th cross will be the cross beam. It'll be the opposite of these because we're going in the other direction. And a reason for doing that, again, for people who weren't watching our other tutorials, is that when we drape the scarf from the center in the back of our neck, we want our crosses to all hang in the correct direction when they're just hanging down from the neck. So we reverse the crosses at the midway point of this scarf so that all those crosses are hanging in the correct direction. It just is an extra feature we added to make our scarves even more special, even more reverent, even more beautiful. We want to honor Jesus with our crosses, and we want to honor the Holy Trinity with the way we position our braided cables. We want to do our seed stitches in a pretty way, and seed stitches can be a lot of them or a few of them, depending on the type of yarn we're using, depending on how wide we want the scarf to be, whether it's going to be for a child or for an adult. I am working on another project where I actually have 38 stitches on the needle instead of 26 or 30. That means there's a lot of seed stitches going on. But the seed is the seed that Jesus plants within our hearts to share his good news of salvation, mercy, and forgiveness. And this is a good day to be talking about this, since it's not just Valentine's Day but Ash Wednesday. It's a good time to be thinking about forgiveness, God's mercy, Christ's message to the world that he loves us, he wants us to come to him, to live for him, to be in his service, to reap the benefits of his love. When I decided to give my life to Christ, which was many years ago, I I started realizing right away He really does love me. He really does want what's best for me. He really does help me achieve the goals that I want to achieve. It's a remarkable life when you live for Christ. So back to the story of this scarf. After I finish this sixth cross, we'll go to the center and do extra rows there. There will be 16 rows of stockinette, and then begin the seventh cross, and then we will do seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. There are 10 rows of stockinette between each of the crosses after the seventh cross. And then after the 12th cross, which is, all those are in reverse, the 7th through the 12th crosses are in reverse. We get done with the 12th cross, we will end with 10 rows of stockinette and then finalize it with 6 rows of double ribbing, and then we'll bind it off. And then of course we will weave in our tail on the back side of the scarf so that it's hidden. We can cut that off anywhere. It doesn't have to be very long. And we'll have a beautiful, beautiful scarf. This is really soft, and it looks soft, it feels soft. I expect to be making quite a few of these because it's so pretty. I hope you've enjoyed this brief video. I hope you enjoy your Lent. I hope you get the most out of it that God wants you to have. If you have any questions at all about the way we make our Christian neck scarves, please feel free to leave your questions in the comments section after this video is posted, and I will try to answer your questions as best as I can. As you know, we don't write down our patterns. There's many, many varieties. There's many variations of this pattern, and I'm trying to show you things as we make things a little bit differently for different circumstances with different yarns, for different purposes, with different colors and textures. Trying to give you inspiration to want to learn this pattern and to start honoring Jesus and the Holy Trinity with this very special garment. We do bless these with holy water after we're all done making them to give extra protection to the person who wears them, and that's just an extra feature of what we do. And of course, I should mention, we do donate all the money to 2 different women's agencies, 2 different women's centers in our area who help women before and after childbirth. We really love their mission. We love supporting them. It's a real blessing to us to be able to donate all the money we collect for our scarves and hats. So it's just a win-win-win all the way around for everybody involved, and we hope you love what we're doing, and thank you for watching. God bless you, and God bless your Lent.